This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to QnA, the show where I take your questions from the internet and answer them here on the show. I only took questions from the community post on YouTube this time because there were 100 questions there. So shout out to y'all, the notification gang, for showing up there. And again, if you want to get your question answered, make sure that you're subscribed and notified so that when I do send out the community prompt for the questions, it'll look like this. I'm putting it up on screen if I remember to do it. And that way you will be able to ask the questions. And if you ask them within 24 hours of that prompt being posted, there's a good chance that I'm going to look at that question and consider it for Q&A. Now, with all of that technical stuff out the way, let's get into the questions. Roger says, "Hi, Quincy. Greetings from Brazil. Thanks for the great work on the Browns. What is the ideal bridge quarterback for Cleveland, and who is your favorite QB in this draft class?" All right. So ideal bridge. If we're just talking about of all examples to have ever exist, it would be 2012, 2013. Alex Smith, I think, would be the perfect bridge for the Cleveland Browns. I think they're looking for as close to that version of Alex Smith to be the bridge quarterback for the team. Now that we know that a guy like Alex Smith is not really available, right? You could look for somebody like Kirk Cousins. I think Sam Darnold is the best possible solution because he's not super old coming off of a bunch of surgeries. I will throw one wild card out there, but I think he's retired. Ryan Tannehill would kind of fit, but he's cooked, so I doubt it. I'm not advocating we should go after Ryan Tannehill. I'm just saying, like, if you're looking at the mode of what I think would work best, Ryan Tannehill used to fit that mode. Same thing with Kirk Cousins. I don't know if they still do, but it would probably be Sam Darnold would be your best possible option of all of the realistic options available. And my favorite QB from this draft class, I'm going to be honest, I don't think I have a favorite QB in this draft class. There's nobody that I get excited about. I think the two main guys, Shador and Cam, could be starters if everything goes right, but the amount of stuff that has to go right for those guys to be good, I just don't feel comfortable betting on that. And then even if those guys are good, I think their ceilings aren't that high. The other quarterbacks in this class, I don't feel comfortable expecting to be more than backups. That doesn't mean that all of these guys will just be backups, but, I would draft them with the expectation to be a backup, right? Now, if one of them has a Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott preseason, they end up being your starter, or Brock Purdy preseason, end up being your starter, then cool. But you shouldn't draft any of these guys expecting them to solve your quarterback problem long term, in my opinion. So I don't think I really have a favorite one. The quarterback whose tape I like the most is Dylan Gabriel, right? But I have massive concerns about his physical ability to play quarterback in the NFL. Next question comes from Alzik Q, longtime fan from Panama. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate we got Brazil and Panama in the building. Appreciate y'all. Shout out to the Southern Hemisphere. What's your opinion on Justin Fields? Also, what do you think the Browns need to address in free agency? The Browns need to address the big glaring needs, right? So tackle, right? You're probably going to want to go after a veteran tackle to give yourself some security. DeJuan Jones is good. I know somebody's going to ask about that later, but DeJuan Jones is good, but you don't want to rely on a dude coming off of a leg surgery like that at 300 plus pounds. It's a pretty tricky proposition there. But yeah, I would say tackle would mainly be the thing that you would answer there. You would probably want to look at wide receiver and then quarterback, right? Like the three big main immediate offensive needs. you do that in free agency. That's what positional need gets solved. And I think the Browns' biggest positional needs are quarterback and left tackle. And I think they get solved in free agency, or at least somewhat mitigated, get the guys on them in free agency at the very least. All right, the next question comes from CTG. Says, do you think the Browns will get Malik Willis in free agency from the Packers, or at least in a trade? I doubt it. They seem pretty comfortable with Malik Willis being their backup, and that has value to them. Jordan Love has gotten injured enough to where they can't factor that out. Maybe if the backup quarterback market was a bit stronger this free agent period, they might be more comfortable letting him go for a pick. But again, it's that catch-22 whenever you're trading for a quarterback off somebody's roster. If the price is great, then you're probably not getting a good quarterback. But if the price is bad, like super high, then you don't want to pay it, right? So if they're willing to just give you Malik Willis for like a 6th-round pick, you're probably not getting much in return for him, right? But if they want like a 3rd for Malik Willis, that means they think highly of him. But if they think that highly of him, they're not going to want to trade him for nothing, which raises the risk to a point to where it's probably not worth it. So that's kind of where I'm at with Malik Willis. Like, if you can get a trade for him that makes sense, yeah, sure, why not? But just, you got to play that little catch-22 game with it. Connor says, yo, Quincy, this is my first comment ever after years of watching. Well, appreciate you, Connor. What does your realistic offseason look like, and what does your perfect offseason look like? Keep up the good work, my brother. So my realistic offseason is pretty similar to what the perfect offseason would be. Because I'm not really attached to specific names that may or may not be available. I think as the season ends, we will know more about who's actually going to be available in the free agent pool. So there's still some questions there about who's actually going to be available. But if you're asking me what positions you need to go after, you need to go after the needs on offense, right? So left tackle, maybe another guard, a center for sure, quarterback, and then if you want to get like a luxury piece, get another wide receiver, right? So I think offense will be attacked heavily in free agency this year. I think that's what they should aim to do, at least in free agency. Luke says, what's up, Q? I was wondering, what do you think would be the ideal quarterback room going into 2025? Thanks for all you do. Been a long time supporter. I don't have an ideal quarterback room yet. I'm gonna be honest with you, right? It's a little bit too early in the process for me to be there because I don't know who's available. For example, like if I'm saying Sam Darnold, what if Sam Darnold gets signed to an extension right when Minnesota's season ends? If that's the case, then he's not part of the ideal quarterback room anymore. I would say this. If you could get a starter that you would feel as good about as like a Sam Darnold, and then maybe you would want to go ahead and get a veteran behind him. Like if you have Kirk Cousins backing up Sam Darnold, and then you could draft somebody in day 3 to be a developmental backup, that'd probably be a really good situation for the Browns, or at least the best situation possible they can dig up out of what they're currently in. And they're going to be free the roster spot, right? They don't have to worry about carrying Deshaun Watson's roster spot into 2025 with the re-aggravation of his Achilles. So they're kind of allowed a little bit more options, a little bit more leeway now. Next question comes from Bob East, who says, what do you think you can get for number 2 overall pick? It feels like it might not be worth as much as other number 2 overall picks have been worth. Yeah, I think this is a big underrated question about trading back, right? It's easy to say trade back, and then you can go on these mock drafts and play with the machine, and they'll spit you out some different trades that you feel like could happen, that you would or would not take, and you can play those scenarios. But ultimately, what teams are going to want to do to move back or to stay forward where they're at, it's going to be dependent on what's on the board, right? In 2014, the Browns traded back from 4 to 8, I believe. And they got, Buffalo's 2014 first-round selection. So they swapped first rounds. And then their first and fourth round selection in the 2015 draft. So That would be an example of a trade that you would want, right? I think the Browns are going to try to get a future first out of this, right? Or I think the price for the Browns to move back would be a future first in order for the Browns to do that. If we're talking about moving back one spot, you usually pick up like a 5th round pick for moving back one spot, unless the leverage is super high to move up that one spot. That's usually what you get for moving up one spot. Again, 2014 draft serves as the example. The Browns traded all the way back to 9. They wanted to get to 8, so they swapped with Minnesota, and Minnesota just took an extra 5th round selection to move up one spot in the draft. So that's usually what that's worth. If you look at the draft value charts, that usually tends to line up. So that's what it looks like, at least in Browns history. The price is to move back or to trade back within the top 10 of a given draft. Will that be the price this year? I think that all depends on how high teams are on the talent in the top 10 of this draft. I think the thing that this draft has going for it is that this is a very good draft. There's a lot of talent in this draft, a lot of good talent in this draft. It's a deep draft. I like this draft. The thing this draft has going against it is a lot of the positions that this draft is strong at aren't really valued traditionally at the top of this draft outside of edge. I think this is a stronger than average edge class. Like, for example, offensive tackle, a highly valued position, not strong in this class. Quarterback, a very valued position traditionally, not strong in this class. But what is strong? Running back, tight end, guard. Those are the positions that this draft class was. Defensive interior, right? Outside of edge, the premium positions that teams usually lose their minds to go move up for, those aren't the ones that are super strong in this class. But there are very good players in this draft class. So we'll see how the board shakes up and what's going to happen there, because that is the dynamic that is at play. And this is a pretty unique dynamic, to be honest with you. Maui says, if Carter gets taken first overall, who should we get? Personally, I think we should trade down a couple spots, try to get Graham or Genty or an offensive lineman. Yeah, I'm with you. If you can't get Carter at 2, then you trade back for sure, right? But if Carter's there at 2, and you can't get like a trade back because New York's desperate to get up here, and even if New York's just willing to offer you like a 5th to move up one spot, I would just take Carter and go on with my day. Matt Johnson says, who is my favorite day 3 quarterback prospect? It's between Will Howard, Jackson Dart, and Dylan Gabriel. Gabriel, because I think he is the most competent quarterback of the bunch, but he's the physically least talented and least imposing guy of all of those guys. So like, I worry about that transition for him. But you know, if you need somebody to run an offense, he mentally can run an offense. Can he do it in the NFL physically? I think that's a bigger question. Will Howard, I have no problem about him physically being able to run an offense at the NFL level, and he throws with anticipation. He's just kind of a streaky passer, right? Sometimes he's very accurate, sometimes he's not. The other guy, Jackson Dart, doesn't throw with anticipation, but has some pretty nice moments while he's passing the ball. His pocket presence is a little weak, in my opinion, but I got to watch more tape on him. Talented guy, but I don't know if he's going to be able to put it all together. But those are my 3 favorite right now. I think Riley Leonard might slip in there because he's a good athlete. He could be on time. He's just not super accurate with the football either. Next question comes from David, who says, hey, Q, do you think DeJuan Jones has showed enough at left tackle to leave him there, or should he revert to the right side in 2025? Whatever you do with DeJuan, you can't really depend on it, but I would just feel more comfortable drafting a true left tackle and putting DeJuan back at right tackle. I think he's more of a right tackle, and his movement limitations lean towards me just keeping him at right tackle more than wanting to put him on the left side and experiment with him there and see if he can move the opposite way. You know, he's already limited moving. He's going to be coming off of a lower extremity injury. Just get him to the side that he's comfortable playing and get him healthy. It's how I see it. CTG back up for a second time. What's your take on the Browns playing a game in London, one less home game in Cleveland? Yeah, I don't mind it, to be honest with you. It's been a long time. The Browns have been dodging the international game bullet, so better to get it over with now than never. It does suck to lose a home game, right? The Browns, any game they can't play in Cleveland is a bad deal for them. But, I know there's a lot of Browns fans in the UK, especially like the Browns have a very strong showing in the UK. So, I'm excited for them to be able to get their home game and their chance to see the Browns play locally without having to spend, the 3, 4, 5 grand that you have to spend if you want to watch a Browns game over in the States if you're from, across the pond. So happy for those guys for sure. And, it'll feel like a home game because the Browns fan base is just so big that they're going to travel. Browns fans going to find their way to London, even if the team's not that good to root for this team. And there's plenty of Browns fans out there in London that are going to be barking. So, you get to see that kind of support there. So it's going to be a home game. It's just not going to be in Cleveland. Next question comes from Matt, who says, our two best players are a corner and edge. Why do you want to use our first high draft pick in years on an edge or a corner? It's simple, because those two positions are where the two really good players are. Also, those two positions are positions where you can have more than one guy play, right? You need more than one starter at edge and you need more than one starter at corner. So why not get really good players at those positions? It's not like you're going to have to take Miles off the field to play Abdul Carter. It's not like you're going to have to take Denzel Ward off the field to play Travis Hunter. So that shouldn't really factor into why you're doing this. You're getting the best player available, right? Did the 49ers decide to pass on the edge because they had a strong defensive line in 2018 instead of taking Nick Bosa, right? Did they pass on that, or did they just take best player available, and did that work out for them? Just got to take the best player that's there. Worry about the positional stuff when it's time to worry about the positional stuff. And, just get a good player, right? You want to get a good player there. But that's it for Q&A. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.